On today's Ugly Agent Podcast, we're going to talk about getting into sales. So get a pen and paper and get ready. Hi, I'm Rich Melton. I'm the host of the Ugly Agent Podcast, and today we're going to talk about getting into sales. And these are things that I wish someone would have told me when I was a young man trying to get into sales. It would have helped me really early on be even better than I was. So there's 11 things on this list. So, make sure you take some notes, and because this is going to be beneficial for you for the rest of your career. So especially if you're training other people, these will be great things to start them out on and help them be successful. So the first thing is clothing. Obviously, the clothing that you're wearing is going to be a major deal in whatever industry you're in. So if you're, obviously depending on what industry and what demographic you're selling to, obviously you wouldn't want to wear caskets. If you're selling caskets, you wouldn't want to wear Hawaiian shirts doing it, because that would not send the right message. So typically that's going to be somebody wearing all black, suit, looking sharp and clean all the time. But if you go into other industries where maybe you are selling surfboards, maybe a Hawaiian shirt is the thing to wear, you just need to know that ahead of time. You need to make sure that you understand what the clothing requirements are going to be. And if you don't know, if you're getting a job in an industry and you're not sure, it's pretty easy to find out now with social media and different things and see what people are wearing. Or just reach out to somebody and ask them if you know somebody in that field. Just say, hey, when you go to the office every day, what are you wearing? This is a great thing to, if you're interviewing for a position, you want to ask that too. It may be fairly obvious, if everybody's wearing suits when you're walking in an interview, but if you're interviewing in that office. But if you're outside the office, it may be best to just ask and show that interest that maybe no one else is showing. Because when it comes right down to it in sales, it's really going to be whatever you're doing, the way to be successful is ask questions. So you want to look at the industry standard and the demographic of who you're selling to, because what you're doing in the office may not translate into what you're doing outside of the office. So make sure to check that out. So number 2 is going to be your attitude. And attitude is everything, right? Because without a good attitude, you're not going to be successful. I don't care what you're doing. So part of that attitude is that you have to have a servant's heart. So that is a big thing in being successful in sales. You got to have where you are there to serve that client and their needs. And you need to realize that. That is going to be one of the major keys to success. And people will see if that's not your end goal. They will figure it out real quick. You may get, a handful of sales without that, and then people will figure out real fast and you won't get any more orders after that. So having a servant's heart is really one of your biggest keys to sales. And when I say that, I mean, like you really have to be genuinely interested in what is going to help them make money with your products. You got to be the one who's going, hey, look, how can I do this? How can I do this differently? How can I make them want to buy my stuff? And what's the benefit of them buying it? It can't just be that, oh, well, they're making money. They've got to make money. They've got to make sure that everything's taken care of. There are no issues. There are nothing else. So having a servant's heart means that when they call you with some kind of problem, you're addressing that problem right away like it's your problem, because it is. It is going to be one of those problems that haunts you forever if you don't fix it, because it's going to cost you a sale that you otherwise probably would have got later on down the line. So the good attitude is a super key into making sure that you're successful long term. So that attitude also carries over into things like, your positive attitude when people ask you stuff. Like I love Tom Hopkins. When I used to listen to him, and he'd always say that, when you start in sales or even as you're going along, and people go, well, how are you doing? In sales and stuff. Well, you're doing great. You're always going to be doing great, right? Because you are the person who's going to make things happen. And it's not that you're lying to them. It's that you're telling them that things are going to be great. If they're not, they are going to be. You have that attitude as a winner because you're going to make it happen, right? So when people had asked me, even when I first started in sales, how are things going? And I harken back to Tom and his recommendations, and I said, things are going great. I got a lot of stuff in the pipeline. We're working on a lot of stuff. Sales are going to be coming in soon. Now, I will tell you, you might want to meter that a little bit. If you're talking to your boss, you got to be a little bit honest with him and tell him, hey, look, things are working through the process and we're getting it. You don't want to just tell them things are great and then nothing shows up on the order file. So just remember that little nugget. You don't want to get in trouble with that. So number 3 is habits. You want to create good habits. And one of the biggest pet peeves I have, and probably this is going to be why it's probably number 1 on this good habits list, is returning phone calls and emails. I can't tell you in every business I've ever been in that I will leave people messages, phone calls. I've got one right now. I'm working with a lender on a property that I cannot get them to call me back. I mean, it is the most unbelievable thing. I'm texting them at all hours going, hey, you know, this isn't even for my client. This is for, I'm helping these people buy a property, my client's property. So they're not even my client, but I have to make sure that I know when everything's scheduled on the financing part of it. And I've got to send text messages that say things like, you know, and this is about as harsh as I get, but these are your clients. They're not my clients. And they're about to default on a deadline on a contract. I need you to answer this email and tell me what's going on. Finally, I get an answer back. But, you know, that is such a critical thing, is create a good habit that and commit to yourself that you're going to return phone calls and emails in the same day, if not within the same hour or two. I try not to let them build up, because if I pull over somewhere and I hit all the phone calls, if I've been in a meeting for the last, maybe 2 hours or whatever, and I pull over and I'm just going to hit that, I'm going to get those phone calls knocked out right away. I'm going to leave messages with them. Or emails. I don't want to be the one who didn't get back with somebody, especially if these people are trying to leave you money. I can't believe how many agents, I hear it from people all the time, who they will call 4 or 5 agents before I'm the one that calls them back. And it's like, what are they doing? What people are, and I've had to explain to my kids, and this is the part where if you have a family, they sometimes might not like it. Right? They don't like that the phone is interfering with their time, and I understand that. But, the way I've rationalized it to my family and they understand is, when somebody's calling me, they're trying to hand me money. Do you like that money? And they go, well, yes. Well, then we're going to answer that phone, aren't we? Oh, yeah, Dad, go ahead and answer that phone. And see, then it's not I'm taking away from them. I'm actually still trying to provide for them. They just got to put it into perspective and understand that there's a reason why somebody's calling me, and I might have to take it. And, a lot of times I'll take that call and say, hey, look, can I call you back? Can we get this handled and maybe on Monday? And most people are fine with that, especially if they know you're with your family. You just tell them, hey, look, I'm with my family and I understand this is an issue, but can I call you back a little bit later? And most people are fine with it. So returning phone calls and emails is a big one. And then another good habit to get into is asking the right questions and presenting ideas that help you. So what I mean by that is, as a habit, asking questions is a great thing. You want to be inquisitive as a salesperson. You want to find out what the people's pain are. You're just going to ask a lot of questions, but those questions are there and you need to design some as a habit to ask them so that you can figure out how your products or processes or services can help that client. So you want to ask these good habits, be asking the questions that get you to that end result, right? So you need to come up with those questions, and you need to have it as a habit that you're just going to always ask those questions, especially at new clients. And then you're going to have different habit questions that you ask when they're established clients. And so that would be like, first of all, when you're talking about how are you going to, handle XYZ, and then they tell you, now you need to create some more questions, a habit question that's going to be, how are we going to take this to the next level to get that sale or get them to start buying from you? So you really need to be thinking about that and creating that good habit of good questions to ask and how and where it goes from there. So it's not only just the good question at the beginning, but it's the good habit questions that are going to push you to the end. So that's a big one. So number 4 is training. And I got to tell you, you're well ahead of the curve right now, obviously watching this video. So I highly recommend you continue to watch not only these videos, but follow along with and listen to other people. Like I mentioned Tom Hopkins earlier. I'm a huge fan of Hopkins. I listened to him nonstop when I was traveling around Kansas and Missouri for years. If a CD could be burned out, mine would have been. My boss hated traveling with me because we would always listen to it, and he just could not stand it. But I said, you should really want me to be listening to this stuff to better me and to better my abilities. So we did listen to it just because of that. So Zig Ziglar is another one. I love Zig. I think he's great. Those kind of training things are invaluable. If you have a half an hour in the car, you should be listening to something to better train you on how to do your job. This is called being a professional. I mean, we can all sit around and listen to goofy stuff, and there's plenty of goofy stuff out on the internet right now. Having it in your mind that you're going to be a professional and you're going to learn something, because here's the thing. Not only can that be beneficial for you, but you can actually, when you get to a place, if you've found something of value in there, it's a great conversation starter with your clients. Hey, you know what? I was listening to this on the way here and they said this. Well, what do you think about that? In your business, what do you think is the benefit of what they said? Okay, now you've started a whole conversation and you're showing them that there's depth in you that they probably otherwise didn't know about or weren't aware of. So, right, why wouldn't you want to, one, grow your mind and how it functions, and then two, be able to have a conversation about that's probably relative to whatever your client is looking at doing. Those things are huge, and you just can't put money on it. So cold calling is another one. I've got a whole video on cold calling, but you really you're going to have to get good at cold calling if you're going to be in sales. You're going to have to be good at not only just cold calling, but answering the phone, how you get that phone call converted into a lead or a sale or whatever it is. You want to really focus on that and what the benefits are. Now, the way you're going to do it is you're going to create good habits, and those habits are the questions that you're going to ask to get to the end of the thing. So you've got to sit down and figure out, hey, look, this is what I've got to do. These are the questions that somebody calls up and says, hey, I'm wondering about X. You need to have habit questions ready to go that say, hey, this is the big, thing that we're looking at, right? We want these things to happen. So, and to get to the end, which is basically getting a meeting with them and closing the sale. So, and again, on training is, my big pet peeve is returning phone calls. That is, you're going to have to train yourself to return all those phone calls no matter what. And some of them aren't going to be fun phone calls. I'll be honest with you. There's been a lot of them in my time that have not been fun, but here again, it's still got to be done. So I'm going to take a quick commercial break here. I want to talk to you for a second about concealed carry holsters, specifically the Cover 6 Gear single point swivel system. It is the most versatile holster on the planet. The single belt clip rotates and allows you to wear this holster anywhere on your body you can reach. Left to right-handed, we have models for over 170 different weapons, all handmade by an Amish family in Kansas. You can bet that when you get your Cover 6 Gear single point swivel system holster that you're going to love it. Be sure to go to cover6gear.com, put in the code UGLYAGENTS at checkout. You'll get 10% off your order. It's the most comfortable holster you'll ever wear. If you or someone you know is looking for a good realtor in the Kansas City area, go to richsellsforyou.com. That's Rich Sells, the number 4, and then YOU.com. You'll see I'm not your average agent. Videos, walkthrough presentations of every house, lots and lots of pictures. Whether you're looking for a listing agent or a buyer's agent in Kansas City or the surrounding areas, the safe bet is to go to richsellsforyou.com. When it comes to realtors, there's a new standard for excellence. At the time of this recording, I'm a licensed realtor with Crown Realty in Gardner, Kansas. All right, thank you for letting me get that out of the way. So the number 5 thing is going to be taking notes. And I talk about this all the time. This is a huge thing for me. It probably borders on pet peeve, but you'll find me anytime I'm in a meeting, I'll have a notepad. And I'm trying to jot down notes. I'm trying to jot down even the most obscure thing I can think of, because in all reality, I need to know there's going to be something that comes up that's eventually going to be something that is important later on down the line. And typically what I do with my notes is, write them down and go over them again. I might keep them for a while. I do have like notebooks and that I keep for a length of time. Sometimes I'll go ahead and scan them into the computer. In the office here, we have a scanner. I'll scan them to PDF and I can put a tag on them or whatever for what months they are. But for the most part, I keep them around unless the notebook's just falling apart. And that way I can reference it back. A lot of times, if you look at my notebooks, they have notes on my to-do list, which I'm not a big fan of anymore. And I get into that in a whole nother meeting, or a whole nother presentation. But, I'll have the old to-do lists, and then I'll have some of the other stuff like who I was calling or what I was doing. And you never know, you might write down a number in there, or phone person, a contact that you have forgotten about, and maybe it's good after 6 months to reach back out to them if they weren't in your CRM. So having those notes is invaluable, not to mention that when you're sitting there talking to somebody and you're taking notes, you're showing them that you're at harmony, you're in with their conversation. You are totally focused on what they're saying, and you're so focused that you're taking notes. So if they're throwing out stuff like, yeah, well, my birthday was last month. Oh yeah, what day? And you can write that down. And now you can put it in your calendar so that you know that they have that you next year you can actually send them out a birthday card, something like that. Those things are all things that happen in a sales call, or they should. You should be getting tons of information about every person you're talking to, and you should be categorizing that and putting it in place so that way you can use that information later for good, only for good. I should qualify that. And so that you can say, hey, look, I thought enough of you to send you that birthday card. I mean, did you get the birthday card? Because you send a birthday card 2 days later, you now have a reason to call them and just check in with them and make sure they don't need any more of whatever it is you got, right? So the taking notes thing is invaluable on everything you do. Now, if you take those notes and then run around and put them in your CRM, it's even better. Because now you've got birth dates, you've got anniversaries, you've got other stuff that you can put it and mention to people and say, hey, look, now you've got this reason to be in contact with that person. If it's nothing else, just to call them and say, hey, look, it's your birthday. I wanted to call you and tell you happy birthday and say, thanks for everything you've done for me. And if you need anything, don't hesitate to call me. That is better than a card in my estimation. And it takes 30 seconds, and you'll probably be one of maybe one person who did that, who's that in that vendor's life or whatever it is, that person, beyond their immediate family members, right? So if you really want to build rapport and do fun things and have people respect you beyond and seriously wonder, what can I buy from that person? What do they sell that I can buy? That's how you get it done, because nobody else is doing that stuff. You've got to be better than everybody else. And that's a real easy way to step up and be better, right? So you never know when that small detail might come back to be the best thing ever. That's a really big one. So number 6 on our list of 11 is goals, and you got to have some. And I have a whole video on this and goal setting, and if you go look in it, I'll put the link down in the description, and I'll put if you guys are listening online, you can just go find it. It's called Goal Setting 2019. But goals are huge, and I'll be honest with you, it was one of those things I found a little bit too late in life. I wish I'd have known about how powerful goal setting was when I was a young man. My goals used to be like, oh, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. Now it's a whole thing where we're getting ready. I'm going to I have my goals down on a 4x8 whiteboard, and I write them out and I put them out there what they are, and those are so powerful. And my children have even seen how powerful and how well it worked. My oldest daughter's decided, she's 15. She's going to put up a vision board. She's going to have her goals on a vision board. And I thought, man, we need to do that. So we're actually implementing as a family. We're going to put together our own family vision board, and our family's going to have their goals and what they want, whether it's vacations or whatever else. And we're going to have it right there in between the living room and the kitchen so that everybody knows what we're planning on doing for that year. I think it's a great idea. And I think a lot of people have lost track of it because of our digital world. We tend to not have, I don't think, the dreams like we used to, or maybe it's just because as you get older, you just get busy in the world and you don't think about what it is you want to do anymore. You're like, oh, I'm just going to go get a bass boat or whatever. And it used to be, and this is what I truly believe, it used to be that you had to save up for those things. And you had to go out and spend, and so you were actually saving for that widget. You're, oh man, I'm putting money in the bank, and that's kind of your vision or your dream, or your goal is to get that thing. Now, with everybody can get credit everywhere, well, you don't have to dream about it. You can just go pick it up. You can just go get it. You'll pay for it over the next 20 years. No big deal. So I think that's partially the way that the goals have kind of gotten phased out of American life, and I think that we need to bring them back, and I think we need to really sit down and think about, how is this not a benefit to our families and to us individually to have a goal, to set a goal, and to achieve it. And I think that, as a salesperson, as a business owner, I can tell you that goals are majorly important. And I did find out about them way too late. And I should have been doing it a long time ago, but I didn't have anybody staring at me telling me I needed to do it either. So this is your chance to not make a 47-year mistake and not get it done. So go out there, get some goals, figure out what they are, watch my whole goal setting video, do whatever. There's tons of goal setting videos. Get some though. That's going to be the key to success. So number 7 is you're going to schedule your time. You're going to have a plan. You're going to schedule, you need to plan your day and your week. So, and now this is going to be crazy because if you guys are outside salespeople like I was, I can tell you, even in real estate, you know what? I have a plan on Sunday, Monday shows up, and my plan for the week is gone. Now, that's not to say that's wasted time. It's just say that I still had a plan, and some of it may come to fruition, but it now can get jumbled around, and I have a little bit better idea. Instead of running around with my hair completely on fire, I now can just move a couple days and make things happen, right? So the advantage is to having where I schedule. So I schedule like in the morning, I've got my savers where my the Miracle Morning stuff where I do at 4:30, I get up and I do all my affirmations and all my fun stuff. And then I've got, 8 o'clock is my time when I come into the office and I'm making phone calls and I'm filling out paperwork and I'm doing all the other stuff. And then that's what I'm trying to call at least 10 people a day, 8 o'clock in the morning. Sometimes that's hard. So what I do is I do the paperwork at 8 a.m. and then I wait and I get to the point where people are in the office so I can call them and they're actually there. So the funny thing about realtors I've noticed is I am one of, I think, 2 of us who wakes up probably early and then is in the office by 8. So if the other ones are out there, give me a like and a thumbs up and all that stuff. I would love to meet you guys because we're a rare breed. I can tell you that. So anyway, you got to schedule that time though in those blocks. And so what I recommend is you get on your calendar, you schedule blocks of time to do certain things, because here's what happens in a world like mine where it's ADHD all the time. If I don't have it scheduled and it's not on there to tell me, hey, you got to do this, guess what happens? Squirrel, squirrel, look at there. Look at there, look at there, look at there, look at there. You get on Facebook, you start scrolling, you start doing whatever, and all of a sudden you look up and it's 1 o'clock. Your day's shot. You got nothing done. Commented and liked a bunch of stuff on Facebook, and that's about it. So you've got to really focus on scheduling your day, scheduling where you're going to drive to, where you're going to go, who you're going to talk to, all that stuff. Have it written out and scheduled. It can move, it can change, but just remember, you've got to do it because it's going to make a huge difference in your life. So I'm going to take another quick commercial break here. Are you ready to lose dangerous, unwanted weight, drop inches, and melt away fat fast without dieting? My friend Brio Guerra has a clinically proven system that will have you losing that muffin top, aging backwards, shredding pounds, and gaining lean muscle, all naturally. At less than $3 a meal, you deserve this kind of health and simplicity in your life. In 30 days, you'll get your health back or your money back. They guarantee results. So contact Brio Guerra right now at 816-520-8102. Tell her you heard this on the Ugly Agent podcast for a free health and coaching consultation. Don't forget to ask about their generous referral program. Make money while you lose weight. That sounds like a great plan for 2019. Chris and Jennifer with The Perfect Spot For You are my personal photographers on all my listings. You can go to theperfectspotforyou.com and check out their work. I highly recommend these folks. For my entrepreneurial photographers out there, they do have a franchise option that you can look into. They'll get you set up, squared away, and it can get you on track in no time at all. They've even taken all the Ugly Agent podcast photos. Give them a call. Get something set up today. 913-201-2229. Tell them the Ugly Agent sent you. All right, and we're back. I thank you for letting me take that break. So let me do this here. So one of the after we get done scheduling, number 8 is we're going to find out our customers' expectations, and can you provide that? Now I know this sounds crazy, but as a guy who's been around the block a few times, you're going to have to realize that your company cannot do everything it needs to do to be successful. Even my companies, when I own them, there are certain limitations to my abilities and my company's abilities. So that is going to be true no matter where you're at or who you're working for, whether it's yourself or someone else. So you need to find out your customers' expectations on delivery, on placing orders, on financing stuff, on whatever it is, or if it's like if you're doing in-home sales, you need to find out their expectations on what they expect on how the house is going to be left and what the conditions are and all the different things that they're going to be having issues with. If it's real estate, you definitely need to find out what their expectations are because if they're looking for a $400,000 house, you don't want to go show them a $30,000 place, right? So you got to find out their expectations and find out if you can provide that service, right? That's a major key, and I think a lot of people don't think about that when it comes into sales. I work for several companies that we had to send a full truck of lumber to a dealer. And I said, well, if we're making one, like just as an example, one trip to Wichita, right? That's a full truck. Okay. What if we take a full truck to Wichita and then we take and make 5 stops on the way back with products that are worth more than lumber, and we make better margin on it, but we make 5 stops on the way? Can't do that. So I had to, one, right away, set the expectations for my client, saying, hey, look, we can't do that right now until I get this fixed. Right? So we finally got the expectations with the client. They understood they had to buy a certain volume to get the truck there. And that was fine. But if I would have just gone in there and not figured that out, you're not going to be successful. There's just no way that you can be successful in that environment, because the first time they have to order and they call up to say, hey, we want to order, whatever it is. And they go, you got to have a full truck of that. And they go, whoops, sorry, we're not doing that. So anyway, you also you can find out if you can get them to change. That's going to be part of your finding out their expectations. You may be able to get that customer to say, hey, look, if we do XYZ, can we make it work? Right? So, but you have to know that expectation before you can try to negotiate a way around it. So just don't forget that. You've got to know what their expectations are. And on number 9 is you got to find out what your company's expectations are, because here we're back again to, hey, if they only want to deliver a full truck, or they've got certain other expectations about when the job's going to be completed, when everything's going to be delivered, what the paperwork, what's the turnaround, we have to special order that, what's going on. I mean, there's all these things that can come into play, and you better find out your company's expectations before you go out and sell the idea that you're going to get XYZ done. And then your company says, we can't do XYZ. We've never been able to do that. So know your company's expectations. Or even if it's your own company, you better know your own, because you're going to be limited somewhere. So it's best to know them ahead of time. Don't oversell yourself and get yourself in trouble and then lose credibility with your clients. So number 10, and I know this is going to sound crazy to a lot of you guys, and gals, sorry, but you're going to want to network with your competitors and find out about their products, inventory, jobs, and industry information. And the reason I say that is because as a person, if you're working for a company, you never know when that company won't need your services anymore. You also never know when that company might just go away. And as a person who's had that happen on several occasions, it's always better to know and network with those people that potentially could find you another job, right? Because if you've been a good person and not been a jerk, and they want to hire somebody and they know, hey, look, that's the guy who's been doing a knockdown job, we might as well pick him up because he's pretty cheap right now. I mean, he's looking for a job. So you always want to network with those people. I've always been that guy. There was a lot of them who were standoffish, and they couldn't figure out why I'd want to be friends with them. And I'm like, look, we're selling against each other. Don't worry, I'm going to beat you in sales anyway. It doesn't matter. That's kind of my thing. And I'd be honest with them. I said, I'm going to beat you in sales, but it doesn't mean we can't be friends about it. We don't want to, have any bad blood. I don't want to be negative about anything. I want to actually help them. I'm not helping them. I'm going to help my client, right? So if my client says, hey, Rich, I need XYZ. Well, I'm using a lot of XYZ today, but if I need XYZ, and then I turn around and say, you know what, I don't have enough XYZ here, or I don't sell XYZ, but I know Joe does. Joe sells XYZ, so you can get your XYZ from Joe. Just tell him I sent you. Right? So now, am I really losing anything on the sale? No, I didn't sell XYZ, or maybe I'm out of it, and he doesn't have time to wait. So I still look like a good guy. I know that he's probably not going to switch over to Joe's XYZ because I'm the guy who put him in touch with Joe. It could happen, but I'd rather go ahead and have the customer happy and not have to worry about it. So anyway, but that's, and then especially on products, it helps you get to know their products and what they have, their inventory, that's going to vary a lot. So depending on what it is we're talking about, but their jobs, you just never know when that job might be available, and they may say, well, here's the right person. So industry information is huge, because as you get into, if you've not been in sales before, or you're thinking about it, or if you're in it, you know that as an industry, there are always things going on. Like in the real estate industry, we're all worried about, interest rates. And firearms industry, they're all worried about nobody's buying any more guns because Obama's gone. And and I'm sure in the, mowing industry, they're worried about, hey, when the snow's coming, right? So there's always industry talk about what's going on. You want to be plugged in that industry information, because here again, it allows you, when you're going out meeting with your clients, to have a conversation about, hey, have you heard about this? What are your thoughts on this? And just get the the questions started so you can be that expert to them, right? So number 11, and this is one more for if you're considering, it's a good idea for everybody, but if you're considering getting into an industry, right? So you decide, hey, I really think I want to be in real estate. I really think I want to be in lumber sales or whatever. Get on an industry specific blog or LinkedIn pages or Facebook groups and see what's going on. They can be very handy for looking for a job. If you're considering getting into that field. Now, that can also be very handy if you already have a job and you're just, looking for information for what's going on within the industry and finding out what's happening in different markets, right? So in different markets, things are always happening. So it's always good to find out what's going on. And if you get into these groups, say you've not been hired yet and you're not a salesperson as of yet, but you get into these groups, you find out, and you start researching and watching what people are talking about and posting, and then you go get an interview for that position, right? That you've been researching and studying on. If you're new and never been in sales, and then they go, hey, well, look, why should we hire you? Well, I'm part of this group and I'm part of this group and I've been researching, and what do you think about this that's going on? And what do you think about that? So, okay, here's a person who's not in the industry who all of a sudden knows everything that's going on in the industry. That's a huge plus for anybody who's looking to get a job, or if I'm looking to hire somebody and you come in with that kind of background knowledge, I mean, that's why would I say no to you? I mean, you'd have to be a complete moron on everything else for me to not consider hiring you if you are already involved in these groups and knowing what's going on. You'd have to have the other 10 things on my list ignored for me not to hire you, right? So if you want to get a job, or if you're in a job, it's very easy to go out there. Not as many anymore, but it used to be there was tons of print publications that would go in their industry specific. So you can sign into them and they'll ship them to you for free. I can't tell you how many building materials, whatever I used to get all the time, or I still get firearm stuff. And I mean, there's realtor stuff all the time. So, and they'll send it to you for free because they want to let everybody know that they're the place to go as the industry standard for information. So go look that stuff up, find out, sign up for those. Do whatever you can to make it happen, because in reality, that's going to give you a leg up on the competition. If you're one looking for a job, or if you've not been in the industry and you're trying to get into one, do that, right? So anyway, I appreciate you guys' time today. If you don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. I forget to mention that all the time. And if you have any questions or any thoughts, please comment down below on YouTube or the Facebook page, or send me a private message. And then, you can go on the website, the uglyagentpodcast.com is up and running, so you can comment on there as well. If you're listening on Ellipson, send us a message somehow, and we'll get your questions answered. If there's a topic you're looking for, don't hesitate to send it to me, and we'll get it covered. So as always, I'm here to serve you guys. Thank you so much, and have a great day.